I'm Coach Dave. Welcome back to Coach's Corner.
Come on.
All right, welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Coach Dave McDonough. Today I got my good friend Dylan Napoleon.
Yes, sir.
From Talking to Tape podcast, starting to come out, MMA, combat sport journalist. Welcome back, Dylan. We appreciate you. Dylan has been a big supporter of us at Champs Boxing with our fighters and is really starting to make a name for himself in the sport of UFC and combat sports, traveling to a lot of these major events, covering them, becoming a big advocate in the area. And we welcome him here with his authority and his knowledge that he brings to the table here. So appreciate you, Dylan.
Of course, Dave. Thanks for having me, man. A lot of upgrades to the podcast studio since the last time I was here, and it's only been a couple weeks, man. This place looks amazing, and like I always tell you, man, you're killing it. Super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, it takes a village. I got a great team.
That's what it's all about.
Here, and the guys at Creative Evolution, Ian Bick, Matt Cronin, doing a great job for me, coaching me and guiding me. I wouldn't be here without them guys.
Yeah.
So a lot of love to them. So what's going on with you, buddy? I mean, we talk and you're moving and grooving all over the place now. A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I want to say, like I said, again, thank you for having me. But for me right now, Dave, I've really been, keeping up this hustle, if you will, and that's what it's all about. This week, I was supposed to be in Vegas covering a UFC card. I was finally about to be back in the newsroom out there. Unfortunately, lost my grandfather last week. So I decided to stay home, take care of all his services, be here for the family, stuff like that. So it was a good decision. I'm glad I made that decision.
Our condolences to you and your family.
Thank you, sir.
I know that's got to be tough. With the new season starting, we're only in February.
That's right.
A lot of exciting stuff coming up. I know you finished the year out strong last year. You had some professional bull riding stuff that you were working on. And so tell us a little bit about the new podcast and the new format that you have going on.
I'm glad you asked me because it's all fresh on my mind. I've had a lot of 2 a.m. nights, like last night especially, staying up, getting this thing into the groove, because I work full-time, 40 hours a week, so sometimes it's hard for me during the day, but I've really been honing in on this at night. Right now, Dave, what I got going on is basically about to launch a full-on podcast, kind of, pretty much what you've got going on. You're a few steps ahead of me at the moment, but I'm on my way, I'm working on the podcast itself, learning a lot of new technology things, creating a website, designing a website. I'm doing all of it. I'm trying to do this big time. As you know, this is not something that you could really go half in on. You got to go all in, stay consistent, put out good content, stuff like that. So I'm working on the website, working on the podcast itself, all of the viewing platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that type of stuff. Google, I think Google transferred into YouTube now, but we'll figure. I think I've got all that ironed out. I got to see exactly what's going on with that. But yeah, man, I'm just trying to make sure I do it right, put it all onto the right places, and do it as professional, high quality as I could, because at this day and age, Dave, you can't really go half on something. No. You got to do it full.
But, you already got a jump start because you're putting content up, you're covering events, you've covered some big events. So are we looking for once a week, twice a week type of podcast? What's your idea there?
At the moment, once a week. There may be some special weeks where I get more than one in, depending on if there's something big in the week. But at the moment, I can promise one episode a week. If things change, I'll definitely make sure everybody's aware. At the moment, though, one episode a week guaranteed. I'm going to hold myself to it, make sure I stay on top of that. And, maybe there's some big events, something happening huge in the MMA or boxing world. I might do another episode, but for now, one episode a week guaranteed, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a lot to put the one episode out, to coordinate everything, to guest and put everything together and make sure it's edited properly. And you're on a few more platforms, so to make sure everything's out there clicking on all cylinders. So with that being said, what's new and what are we looking at in the UFC world out there right now, combat sports?
So right now, there's a lot of big fights that aren't exactly announced, but people are kind of speculating, getting ready for them. They're expecting people like Ilya Taporia and Islam Makhachev to eventually fight. There's some huge fights in the makes, guys going up in weight, down in weight. Of course, the Alex Pereira, John Jones fight is something that people are, still discussing. I believe one day it'll come to fruition. There's a lot of kind of double champ, triple champ, weight class moving around stuff going on right now, where we might see some of the best guys in the world challenge themselves at other weight classes, which I think is super cool. Islam Makhachev basically cleared out the whole division, getting ready to move on up. I think he's going to move up, and that'll be super fun to see him take on some bigger guys and just new guys, if you will. Dustin Poirier is getting ready to make his retirement fight. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. As even growing up, I really liked him, and he said that it might be in his home state of Louisiana, which would be beautiful. I think he deserves that. And yeah, those are some of the most exciting things for me at the moment. I think Dustin's going to, finally hang him up this summer. And I'm looking forward to his retirement fight. It should be a huge fight. He was offered Paddy Pimblett, turned the fight down, said, no, I need a legend. And right. I can only expect that this fight, that whatever fight he gets is going to be huge,
So, knowing you now for a couple of years, you're really evolving. I remember from when you first came into Champs, and some of, you were always so gracious to us and always willing to help with our fighters and put content out there, especially for guys who really didn't have big names at that time. And it kind of meant a lot to us. And now you're evolving. How did this evolve come for you? And how did it happen for you into the combat sports world? What brought you to that?
So basically, Dave, I know you can relate to this, is just staying consistent and putting in the work. I started this about 2 Novembers ago. So I'm going on, this is when November of 2025 hits, that'll be my 3rd year. So just over 2 years, going on 3 here. And my evolution, man, I started off, just doing my thing, trying with basic equipment, the cheap stuff. And I've spent, I've invested, I've gotten all the best equipment because I learned quick. You can't, you got to have the best stuff to do this.
Quality, you know what? And that's one thing I learned. It's like, at first you want to put out content and you look at some of the early content, not that was done in the studio, but the quality is really important.
100%. So I developed that aspect, I really realized that, if you will. And I've really just been putting in the work. I know a lot of people that I started with. There were like a bunch of us that started together, younger dudes like myself, big MMA fans that really wanted to take it to the next level, find a bigger and better role in the sport, if you will. And I've seen a lot of people kind of fall off. I've seen those hurdles get a little too big for people, and some people literally just quit. No shame on them, but I'll tell you right now, what sets me apart from that is the fact that I just keep going, and I think the fact that I work 40 hours a week and don't put my full attention to it and don't get all caught up in analytics and stuff like that, I think that helps me a lot too, because a lot of the people that I have seen kind of decline or even fall off from the game, they invested their entire body to it. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because you're putting in a lot of energy, you're putting in the work, but man, when it's the only thing that consumes you,
well, I think with this, well, you're right. And I work also. So, you know what? It's, I don't have everything invested in one thing, right? So I think you're right. This consumes you. Right. It consumes you to the effect of, because we don't have control over the plan. Like if you were to take a business plan and said, okay, I'm going to open a restaurant, and you put your business plan together and everything, you put the product out, put a good service out, good food, people come in, you see them eat the food, they're happy or they're not, right? Right. What we're doing is the algorithms, we have no control over the algorithms, right? So you think you're going to put good content out and it tanks. Right. Then you put something that you really don't think is that good and it soars.
100%.
And I think if you get consumed in trying to follow that, it just takes over. I know myself, it's because, and I know you spend a lot of time. Mm-hmm. Like when I'm not working or I'm not coaching, I'm doing this.
Me too.
Right. And, just for an example, I'm, 6 hours on a Sunday doing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, making sure my stuff is good. And these guys are great because without them, I wouldn't be able to do a lot what I'm doing. Making sure my shorts are up, making sure everything looks good, thumbnails, being over the platforms, dropping stuff out.
It's a
my
lot of
descriptions.
work.
It's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
So you add it up, right? And, trying to figure out what the next move is, who the next guest is, who can we target, what topic is going to work. And then, like you, we're going to events.
Yep.
We're talking to guys.
Yeah.
And we're running on our own budgets.
That's right. But I think it's I've gained a deeper appreciation for that, being the fact that I've had to work for everything, nothing in this, Dave, you're a coach, not only a podcaster, not only a part of the media, stuff like that, but dude, no matter anything in this realm, whether it's a fighter, a journalist, a podcaster, man, nothing's given to you. You know that. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And look, Rome's not built in a day, and it takes a village to do whatever you're doing, whether you're working with fighters, a business, yourself, your job, your life, whatever it is, podcasting. Look, there's a process.
That's right.
There's a process. And it's tough to be consistent.
Yep.
Because easily you could say, man, this is a lot. This is a lot.
Right.
And it's tough to say, okay, I can miss a week. No. But I'm with you. I'm like, right now, in the beginning stages, you kind of have control of what you're doing. And with you now, you're a young man who's built a good reputation. You've been to these big events now. You started out locally, right? Doing local shows, building up your reputation, building up your credibility with a lot of guys, fighters, promoters, managers. And now you're starting to reap some rewards where you're out there with a lot of journalists at these big events.
Yeah. Tell you what, Dave, for me, it's a reward to be here on your podcast too. So yeah, that's what it's all about is really just is the reward is nice, but I also really like and I enjoy seeing the path, right? Because like you said a minute ago, dude, or we discussed a minute ago, dude, I was working with the bare minimum, trying to figure it out. Now that I finally have, an idea of what I got going on and how to do this stuff, things are starting to blossom a little bit. But I tell you what, it took a good year to finally figure out the ropes to this, and now that I've been a year or so after, having a good idea of what's going on, man, I'm starting to see some good results. And I love it, but there's always more to accomplish. We're gonna do some cool stuff here in 2025, cover some really cool events. Like you said, I want to really get this podcast blowing up, do some cool stuff with it. I'm learning the whole podcast deal. Never had an idea how to do that stuff. So
we're learning every day, Dylan. You want to know something? I had this was not something that I envisioned, but once you get into it, you have no choice. If you want to keep going, you got to learn a little bit about it.
That's
right?
it.
And you got to listen to some of the people involved, and you take a little bit of what they're doing and you mix it in with what you have and see what kind of works and see what was successful. But you know what? At the end of the day, you're the creator.
That's right.
You get to be creative, right?
Yeah.
And I never thought I had a creative side to me doing this. But, back to you now. Not only national events, but we're starting to see a lot of events in Connecticut.
Yes, we sure are. And for me, that's very special. On my side of things, LFA is making their first appearance here in Connecticut, March 22nd. And when I tell you I'm excited for that, that's an understatement. This is one of the world's leading, it's hard to say, but it's not even like a regional promotion anymore. This is right in between regional and like UFC caliber.
Tell us a little bit about it. People don't know what LFA is. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I want to say LFA stands for Legacy Fighting Alliance, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like 99% sure, but LFA is a really good promotion, and like I said, it's hard to consider them a regional promotion because quite honestly they're not. They're bigger than that. And
are they going to take this? They're going to take the place of Bellator?
They
you feel?
They can for sure.
They had their event in January at Mohegan, correct?
Yeah.
Did you cover that event?
The Bellator one or the which
LFA.
one? So LFA is making their debut at Mohegan.
Who was the one that just had the event in January up there?
That was the bare knuckle, if I'm not.
No, there was another one. The guys from Nick Newell's gym fought on it. Mikey Kimball
yeah,
fought
yeah,
on
yeah,
it?
yeah. Reality fighting.
Okay,
Reality fighting.
Okay.
Really good promotion too. I
Yeah.
was impressed with their show. I talked to Paul Garino last night on the phone.
Yeah.
He told me, "Yo, you got to go on their Instagram or their YouTube, look at their footage for the fights." Dave, their quality for their fights, they post the fight, the video of the fights after the fight. Dude, they have some very impressive quality footage, like real good stuff. And I was impressed with them, impressed with their show overall. Dave, they sold out the entire Mohegan Sun Arena, something I haven't
Yeah, I
even
know. When Nick had Mikey Kimball,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, Quentin Paisley's fight fell out, who we were working with, helping with Nick. And there was another gentleman from Nick's gym that was fighting on that show also.
Yeah.
They told me it was a big show.
Oh, yeah. It was Jesse Kozakowski.
Yeah.
Jesse made his return after about 4 years away from the sport. He had a lot of injuries, back surgery, some crazy stuff that kind of happened, big hurdles. But, dude, he bounced back. I mean, first round TKO, insane, nasty ground and pound finish.
Now, did you cover that show?
I did.
Too?
I was 2 years of doing this, Dave. I've hardly ever had the chance to be ringside because I'm a reporter. I don't ringside for me is a beautiful thing, but I don't exactly need that. For what I do, it's more so photographers need that kind of access. But dude, I was cage side. Couldn't get any closer than where I was. It was like as close as you are being in a fighter's corner, and it was sick. I got some cool angles, had some videos pop off that night because I had such a good, seat. So I was thankful for that. Thank you to Reality Fighting for the hospitality that night. They'll be back there in May. I know a lot of the guys that fought last time, Mikey Kimball, for sure, Jesse Kozakowski, they should be on that card. And I'm almost positive Jesse's going to be making a title fight that night. He's going to be running for a title that night, which is exciting. And yeah, they did a really good job out there. Shout out to Reality, really quality show. They're only in Mohegan Sun 4 times a year. And I know they're working on it right now, but man, whoever the powers that be, I think, Mohegan Sun would be blessed to have Reality a little bit more than that. It'd be good for the promotion. It'd be good for Mohegan. They sold out the place, man. So whatever needs to be done, I would love to see them.
I mean, between them and then, we mentioned BKFC. Did you cover the BKFC event?
I did.
And I heard that was sold out.
I
wasn't at that event. I heard they had to open the top. That it was sold out.
It was. Yeah. One thing I have to say, Dave, and this is not, I'm not putting no disrespect to anything, but I've been to a lot of PFL, a lot of Bellator there at Mohegan. And I'll tell you what, they never really sold out the place. The top sometimes wasn't even open. To see Reality Fighting and to see BKFC sell the place out was super cool to me because I've seen so many MMA shows there. I've seen, the CES boxing. I've seen CES MMA. And I'm sure there have been some sellouts, in between. But I'll tell you what, in Bellator, PFL had a hard time selling the place out. They had some some huge names on those cards too. And I was kind of surprised that it wasn't as, sold out when back in that day. But to see that place filled for Reality and BKFC was super cool. And that's why I think they need to do it more. It seems like
Mohegan. Well, I think you're going to see it more. And then look, we worked the BKFC event with Zach Kalmus.
Yeah.
Wells Fargo, and you're talking about sold out, right?
Yeah.
So look, I've been blessed in my life and worked some big events and that was phenomenal.
I believe it.
Phenomenal. Like when we were every seat that I could visually see to the top was filled.
Yeah, that I wish I would have made the trip out there. I had a couple kind of work things come into place, and I would have loved to be there. I regret it now. I'm not gonna lie. That's one event where I was like, damn, I really should have been there.
It was a great event, and I got to give my hat. Like even look, there were almost 5,000 people at the weigh-in.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
I'm sorry, not the weigh-in. The press day. Okay, the weigh-in was crowded, but not that many. But it was packed, and one thing BK is doing is, and a shout out to Dave Feldman and his team because they are professional as the day is long.
I love their shows, man. They do such a good job, BKFC.
For a sport that has just really come on the scene.
Yeah.
Okay. He is making a big splash. All his people that work, you see back end of the events, right? Back end of the event is unbelievable.
They love their jobs.
Coming from, a trainer, a fighter aspect of it all, everybody's treated well.
Yep. And they do a good job.
They do a great job.
Yeah.
They're organized to the T.
Yeah.
And now they're putting asses in seats.
Yeah.
And, it's making it harder, I think, for boxing to compete. One thing I got to say about BK is they're matching great fights.
Yeah.
They don't care. There's there's not a favoritism there. You want to fight? Okay, we're going to match it up.
Yeah.
Locals again, whatever the case may be, to match. And I don't want to say it, but we know in boxing, in certain events, what happens at a smaller event.
Yeah.
We know.
A lot of A side, a lot of B side.
A lot of A side, a lot of B side.
Yeah.
And I think we're losing value because, look, to put a good show in Mohegan, it costs for the ticket. We understand that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people don't mind paying for the ticket if there's value.
That's right. That's right.
If you see, and, that's what I'm kind of seeing. And I think maybe you can jump in here with UFC.
Yeah.
With, you've been to events all over the country.
Yep. Yep.
So you're not just seeing it here on the East Coast. You've been out to the West Coast. You've been to Utah. You've been, different places with UFC.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the fan in UFC compared to boxing?
So for me, MMA, the fan kind of deal is it's crazy because the MMA fans are very, it's hard to say, but they're like cutthroat. You get your really good fans, you get, the fans that create some drama and stuff. But the MMA kind of community is special because, like I said, there's so many big names, and you'll see, for example, I'm sure you've seen what happened with Bryce Mitchell, right? The MMA community will rally against him. Now guys want to see him get the hardest matchup in the UFC, stuff like that. Then you got a guy like Sean Strickland where the fans go nuts. He said it. Sean Strickland said it himself. If it weren't for the fans, he would have lost his job a long time ago. I've really seen a guy like Sean Strickland showing so much love to the fans lately. And I think he, I never even knew this, but I think he realized that the only reason the UFC has allowed him to say some of the things he has, and obviously there's freedom of speech, so I'm not really trying to get into that, but a lot of the things that he says are controversial, right? And he likes to, he creates some stir-ups, and he said it the other day on Instagram. He said, if it weren't for all the support that the fans give me, I don't think I'd be doing this right now because I would have, lost my job. And that was kind of cool to see, the fans rally up for this guy. They jump on his back so much that they've preserved his job for him. The UFC can't get rid of him because of how much value he has now and stuff like that. So it's kind of, it's a weird community, right? Because you get guys that, fans that are totally against, fighters. And then you get fans that are totally on their backs and rallying for them. So the MMA community is kind of, spread out. But in boxing, one thing I can say is boxing fans, I feel like, are a little bit more cultured, if you will. So they really care about their culture. There's a lot of boxing, you get your Puerto Rican fighter, you're going to have half the arena of Puerto Rican fans.
Well, you got to look at boxing has history, right?
Right.
The fighters from Puerto Rico, right?
Right.
Mexican fighters. Eastern European fighters now coming in, Russian fighters, Cuban fighters, the American, United States fighters. We're talking UFC and MMA hasn't hit that point yet.
That's one of the biggest differences I see in the two sports. I see like UFC, MMA, they a lot of fans, they support the sport as a whole.
Well, we go back into fighting, and you have to go back into the early 1900s, 1910, 1920, 19. Fighters were fighting for the country.
That's right, and that goes back.
And I'll take it back to when I was a young kid, right? When boxing only was on ABC Wide World of Sports on Saturday afternoon, right? United States, Cuba, and Russia.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, who are you rooting for at that time?
Right, you're rooting for
because Russia and Cuba were, they weren't allies with us at that time.
Right.
So, you got their country fighting against our country or fighting against each other. You're not performing a little harder.
Right.
Politicians aren't coming down saying, hey,
you got to get one for us.
You're under the microscope here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? And, MMA is still evolving.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest differences.
The fan is still new.
Yeah.
Right? The fan is still new for the way the sport is starting. And now I think, Dana White is more global than he's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has to put now, with all these little offshoots popping up, we can go into boxing, creators, influencers, bare knuckle, slap, all these other. There's so many things popping up that you got to be on your game.
100%. Yeah, there's a lot of little niche kind of things coming up. Like you mentioned, the slap fighting, the BKFC. They're basically taking the sport and twisting it a little bit, you know, and adding something new.
The other thing is too, Dylan, right? A lot of these fighters, from what I'm seeing, right? If another platform pops up, and I'll take BK for argument's sake, a lot of guys want to go fight bare knuckle because, you know, first of all, they're a big platform now. Yep. You're getting noticed. Second of all, like you got Austin Trout fighting in Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. There's former world champion contender, great boxer. Now he's fighting bare knuckle.
Yeah.
Different fighters want to fight bare knuckle.
Yeah.
You know, on the Philadelphia event, we had Joey DeWanko on the card.
Yeah.
Former pro, right?
Yeah.
Heavyweight.
A lot of MMA fighters.
A lot of MMA fighters.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, right? You know, the bigger you are in your sport, you got a shot to make money on this platform.
Yeah.
You know, the guy's going to say it's like where not necessarily you can go into the cage and say, okay, I was a boxer.
Right.
Now I'm going to go fight UFC. But if you were an MMA guy, you can go fight bare knuckle because it's only one. You're doing your stand up anyway, right? So you get to throw hands, right? A fighter, a boxer gets to throw hands.
Yeah.
Not that we have to worry about going on the ground or getting kicked or getting submitted.
Exactly. And you know what's cool to me, Dave, is something that stood out for me at the BKFC, that event that I attended. And I know you were in the back room, you know, getting Zach ready and stuff for most of the event. I don't know how much of the event you actually watched, but I got to watch the entire one at Mohegan. One thing I realized, Dave, is every fighter that made their BKFC debut that night, and I want to say every fighter, but there may have been one or two that didn't, they pleaded for another shot at BKFC. They loved the hospitality. They loved, you know, what they were doing. I think BKFC does a good job, you know, with their fighters overall. There's so many different aspects to it. You know, the experience, the walkouts, the treatment, all that stuff. I think they treat the fighters really well.
The show is first class.
Yeah.
Look, it's a combination of UFC and wrestling put into one thing. It's an event.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's an event. And honestly, he's putting shows.
Yeah.
So, you know, as a fighter, the worst thing that could happen is you have time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not fighting a lot, right? If you're not a high-level fighter in MMA or UFC, where you're fighting maybe 2-3 times a year and you're making good money, you're a mid-level fighter in any of these sports.
Yeah.
You're looking, right? You're looking to make a name. So if I fight, say for argument's sake, I go fight, I'm a boxer or a UFC fighter, MMA fighter, combat sport fighter, and I go take an event at BK.
Yeah.
And I crack somebody and drop the shit out of them. My value just went up across the board everywhere.
Big time. I got a story for you. So when I was at the BKFC event, I was a little like impressed because they had a fighter on the card. He was, I want to say, in his record, Dave, if you looked at it, you'd be like, oh my goodness, the guy was about like 1-10 or so, or maybe 0-10. I don't even know if he had a professional victory yet. You want to know what's crazy about this guy? They keep giving him opportunities. And I was kind of like, wow, like in a lot of other sports, boxing, MMA, you're 0-10. You know, it's a rough road for you, right? It's tough. But Dave, this guy went out there and he put on the fight of the night. You know what I mean? And before the event, I kind of wondered, like, how do you make it so far being that with that record? And I know records don't define people, but when you have, you know, that kind of lopsided of a record, people start to look at you a little differently. And I did. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of like worried about it. Like, wow, like that's kind of different. I've never seen this before. Dave, he went out there, dropped his opponent, almost won the fight. He was literally seconds away from, you know, winning the fight. He landed his shots, dropped his opponent. He was about to win the fight. His opponent recovered and everything. But man, these two guys put on the fight of the night. They were on the main card, not like a main event, not a co-main event or anything like that. A main card fight. You know, one of them was, I think, 2-1. The other one was, he had that record I mentioned a minute ago. Dude, these two guys put on fight of the night, and it really impressed me. And one thing I realized about BKFC is they don't care. You have that record, but you can go out there, put on a good fight, you know, almost win, drop your opponent, get the fans all riled up, give a great fight, get some animosity going at the weigh-ins. he did a great job. He did his job to the fullest. I really respected him, the way he showed up that week, and it made me realize, wow. I always knew records didn't matter.
These guys are fighters, and I think one thing is you're right about that. I mean, this was my second event, and there's all diversity here, right? You have guys that train at a high level. You got guys that just walk in. They're tough guys, right? Yeah. And there was a fight in the show, and one of the favorites got knocked out. And I don't remember names, but the kid was in our locker room.
Yep.
And after the fight, we're getting ready, and I'm listening. And this kid comes in, and he's great, happy, right? Mm-hmm. But he's just talking about how he fought in backyards, how he drove in from, I don't know, somewhere in the South to be at the event. Yeah. And nobody thought anything of it. And he slept the favorite. Yeah. Slept him.
Yeah, I believe
And then, I'm going to say it's Nick Terrell. Nick Terrell was the champ.
Mick Terrell. Yep.
So that fight, I'm talking to Mick throughout the hotel. And, he was in camp with Joe Parker.
Yep.
Overseas, he's all with the fighters, guy's in great shape, great work ethic and everything else. And he comes out and he gets slept.
Yeah. That was a brutal one too. That knockout was seen around the world.
Yes.
Ben Rothwell, former UFC heavyweight.
Yeah.
Crazy fight, man. And I was like in awe of that knockout. But
yeah, and hats off to Ben Rothwell. Yeah. You know what? But if you're looking at these two guys, I'm looking at Mick because, all right, I'm hearing the training, but if you watch the knockout, he walked right to him. Rothwell just took him out.
Yeah, I mean, huge shot.
And look, it's a unique sport. I think it's a lot different than any other combat sports. Yeah. People, and it's brutal.
Yeah. One thing, Dave, I realized is, at this particular Mohegan event, there's a lot of previous MMA fighters, former MMA fighters making their debuts. There was a handful of them. And you always worry about the hands in BKFC, breaking hands, your knuckles, stuff like that. One of the fighters was like, yeah, everybody's so worried about our hands. You're coming from an MMA fighter. I'm used to fighting with gloves and all that. He goes, everybody's worried about my hands. He said, I fucking love this. And it kind of opened my eyes a little bit too, because obviously the average person is probably like, damn, bro, you're, punching some guy's head with no gloves.
When I first started working, you think like this, right? Because we think as trainers with boxers, we want to protect their hands, right?
Right. They love it, though.
What I'm noticing is these bare-knuckle fighters, their fists are clenched. First of all, the guy that wraps their hands is unbelievable, right? And their fists are clenched, and they throw punches. Mm-hmm. Where they get hurt, and even in Zach's fight, Pat Brady broke his hand on Zach's.
Yeah.
That's where they get hurt.
Yeah, because
it's not the punching to the head. It's not the punching to the face.
Yeah.
It's the blocks.
Yeah.
And these guys are punching with such force.
And they probably hurt their wrists more than they do their hands.
It's collapsing, right?
Yeah.
But, getting back to their hands, if you really watch them when they're fighting, a lot of them are punching properly.
Yeah. The technique matters.
Technique matters, right?
More than it does with gloves, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It matters. You know what I mean? So we're seeing that a lot more. But you've worked some great events this year.
I have. Well, in the calendar year, 2025, I haven't made it out
yet.
Well,
we're still new in 2025, but in 2024, you worked some big events. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, so I'll tell you guys about a couple of the ones that really stand out to me. The first ever UFC pay-per-view that I got to cover was Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. I saw that as a full circle moment for myself. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I grew up, from a young kid. Dustin Poirier was my guy. And just the way he fights, his style, the man he is, I really enjoy watching him fight. And I think a lot of people can understand why. He's just he's a brawler, and it's just the attitude he brings inside the cage, outside of the cage, the family man he is. I really respect Dustin Poirier. And, it was cool to see him fight. I was glad that it wasn't his last fight, because he did so well in that fight. And I really liked the way he knew he did well. He knew he came up short. I liked the way he handled that loss too, which makes me respect him even more. But it was cool for me to see him fight. Glad he didn't retire that night, because I think he got one more in him. I think he can pull off one more victory, retire in Louisiana in front of all his fans. hopefully pick up a victory that night too. It was cool to see him fight. Cool to see Islam Makhachev. Of course, he's the pound for pound #1, the best in the sport, and really an honor to be at one of his fights, cover one of his fight weeks too. That was amazing. Of course, Sean Strickland was on the card. Sean Strickland helped me get one of my most viral clips to date. You know, Sean Strickland gave me a cool little shout out that day.
Right.
Man,
but you got another big clip.
Yeah. Yeah, the treadmill one you're
referring
to. So the
one, Sean Strickland was a bigger clip than the treadmill one?
The treadmill one was bigger, but I really like the Sean Strickland
Tell us the treadmill
video.
one, because I saw it on Instagram, but and you and I have talked about it, but you got to tell the story. Yeah.
So the story about the treadmill video, and anybody who knows me personally, or even maybe as a journalist on Instagram, they probably have seen the treadmill video before. So I forget what day it was. I want to say it was media day. They had the media day, you know, where we interview all the fighters going on the second floor of the hotel, right? So I go up the stairs, take care of media day. I come down, I leave the media room, leaving the hotel, coming down the stairs, and I see probably 5, 6, Russian fighters of Islam Makhachev's team, and I see these guys carrying a treadmill, full treadmill. I don't know how to describe it, but it wasn't one of your little home treadmill. It was a real treadmill. You know, it was heavy as hell, stuff like that. They took it down not just a flight of stairs, but one of those windy ones. You know what I mean? It's like a horseshoe kind of deal. And I see 5 guys bringing this thing down the stairs, and I already knew what it was. It was from Islam Makhachev's weight cut. These guys brought their own treadmill from Catone's gym in New Jersey into the hotel, up the stairs, took a whole village to bring it in and out. He cut weight on the treadmill. I see the guys bringing the treadmill out, take out my phone, record like a 10-second clip, and I asked one of the corner men, I say, hey, this got to be Islam's treadmill from his weight cut, because I knew he had just made weight and stuff. Sure enough, it was. Take the video, post it on Instagram, and I think that video has like 7 million views right now. You know, it was crazy. That one, I literally just thought it was funny, thought it was cool, you know, that something you wouldn't see much of, guys carrying a treadmill through a hotel.
Just walked into that one.
I just walked into it, threw it on Instagram. You know, it's crazy. It's slowed down now because we're about probably 8 to 10 months post fight week. The video slowed down, but Dave, the first month I posted it, dude, I'd have that thing was getting likes every second. Like, I would refresh my phone. Every time I go into Instagram, my likes were maxed out from that video. And it was crazy. That was when I was like, oh my God, this is, you know, someone who has 1 million followers or something crazy. This is what their phone looks like. You know, it was a cool moment for me. Lasted a couple weeks until the video finally slowed down. But that was just being in the right place at the right time, you know.
And I'm sure when he gets ready to fight again, if you repost that thing back up and tag it somehow and reword it, the thing's gonna get legs again.
I should do that. That's a good idea. He just fought last month, and that would have been a good idea. I'll do it for his next fight. Yeah, just happened to be at the right place at the right time. The Sean Strickland video didn't do as well. I think it may have gotten close to the amount of likes. I don't think it got as many views, but the likes were, I think, like 20,000 away. The treadmill video has almost like 100,000 likes on it, and I think the Sean Strickland has like 75 or something. I've never had any videos come close to that, but I got lucky with those two.
It's amazing with the algorithm, right? They go back to the same thing. The algorithm is a crazy.
It's insane.
And you know what? You catch it right during fight week when people are paying attention to what's going on, and their information's just saturated all over the place. Yeah. And people are seeing different things pop up and everything else. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Now, I know you covered some of our guys here in Danbury.
Yep.
I know you've been up to Texera MMA.
Yep.
Talking with Glover and Alex Pereira and the team up there. How did that go for you? As you know, look, we know Glover, former champion, his story of what he accomplished as a champion and on a great run and a great career. Mm-hmm. And now, working with one of the premier UFC fighters in the game. Mm-hmm. Bringing his knowledge. How was that experience for you?
So I just like I do the guys that yourself and the team at Champs. I have so much respect for the guys at Glover's Gym too to share MMA because way back when I wasn't even covering the sport, I went in there with a photo. This is how much respect I have for fighters, especially local to me. I just thought it was so damn cool to have guys like Glover, Alex, Wellington Tournament, all these other UFC and high level fighters, literally in my backyard. And I went in there with a photo and I had them all sign it. I've got it framed in my room. I am just so proud to be from the same state where these guys have this gym where they're producing, the best fighters. So that was what I did, way back when I was in high school. And then eventually to be able to go into that gym again and finally build a relationship, interview a lot of the guys, that was just such a blessing to me because I feel like something that sets me apart from a lot of people is like the respect that I have for the game. I don't just do this because I like the sport or think it's fun to watch people get hit in the head. No, that's not right. I really enjoy the sport because of the respect factor. I see what fighters have to go through as a man or a woman in the gym.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors when you're this close, and it's like you said, you got to have kind of a respect, okay? Because there's so much media out there, right?
That's
There's
right.
so many people out there, right? And like in anything else, some good, some bad, right?
Yeah.
And look, we're just a small part of the big media picture out
That's
there,
right.
right? But going back to the same thing, this is our backyard.
Right.
We're in the same state.
That's right.
We're going to cross paths with these people.
Yeah.
And getting to your point about the same state is, Connecticut right now, and we talk about this, and, in the boxing world, it kind of gets overlooked, right?
Right.
But if you look at combat sports in the state of Connecticut, and I'm talking about, UFC, MMA, boxing.
Yeah.
Look what's out there.
It came a long way.
All right. We have, at the UFC level, obviously Glover Teixeira, right?
Yeah.
Now Alex Pereira training out of Connecticut. Right?
Arguably the face of the UFC right now.
You go anywhere and you see him pictures all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Commercials, everything else, right? Guys training here. We can go to the other side of Connecticut to Nick Newell's gym.
Yep.
For people who don't know about Nick Newell, not only what he overcame as a fighter, but as a coach and what he's producing over there.
Amazing talent.
Yeah, amazing talent, does a great job over there on that end, right? Then you throw boxers in.
Yeah. Yeah. We think about your gym, think about the couple others, down in there. I know they got, what is it, Ortiz in Bridgeport,
yeah, Ortiz,
right? Yeah.
We have Chad Dawson, who's a former 3-time world champion, training people here in us, and being a fan of Chad when I got to meet him and talk to him and work against him, right?
Yeah. And
then eventually have him, spar with a few of our fighters.
Yeah.
And bring fighters to spar. Now he's going to be an outstanding coach. There's a lot of national champions in our state, a lot of really up and coming fighters, great trainers.
Yeah. Real quick, let's throw a little love Cordell Booker. He's about to fight for a world title.
All right. So I'll tell you a funny story. Yes. So Cordell Booker is going to fight Fondor.
Yep. And
this is a fight. First of all, Cordell deserves it. He has worked his ass off. He started off high in the game, had some ups and downs, never really backed down, and kept working and got into this fight. So that fight gets announced, and I'm at bare knuckle, and I see the fight get announced, right? And I'm saying, man, it's gonna be tough for Cordell to get sparring for this fight. And I look over, and there's a gentleman, Blake Lacaze, who's he's Zach Kalmus's, and he's working the corner with us.
Blake, is this the 6'9" guy?
Blake is 6'9".
Yeah.
But Blake has 23 pro boxing fights, and is a former amateur national champion from Louisiana, right?
Yep.
He's got 5 BK fights, right?
Yep.
And I'm literally sitting. We're sitting here, and I'm looking at him, and then I look at him again. I'm like, there's the sparring.
Yeah.
So I text Cordell, and then I text Paul Garino, and I said, I have you sparring. And actually, Blake sparred last week with them.
That's what Paul told me last night. Actually, I'm pretty sure you guys they flew him up, right?
They flew him up.
Yeah.
So I said, look, you guys do what you want, but you're not going to find a 6'9" guy to emulate Fondor.
Right.
And actually, Cordell did. I don't want to divulge the whole thing. Outstanding. And honestly, this is a fight Cordell Booker can be upset. This is an upset. I'm saying it right here. Fight fans are going to tell me now. I'm saying it right here. Cordell Booker is in position to upset Fondor.
Yeah. And for those who bet, I was informed last night that right now, according to the bookies, they have Cordell Booker at about plus 650. There's a lot of value on his name. I know that there's a lot of people excited for this, value with Cordell Booker. Plus 650, man, is a good line. So anybody who's betting, I give you a recommendation to take a look at that line right now. It's pretty wide.
Well, that's a good aspect, right?
Yeah.
So I tend not to think about that during fights because but from the aspect of the fight, the pressure is on Fondor to beat Cordell Booker.
Yep.
Because the boxing world expects Fondor to beat Cordell Booker.
That's right.
They're saying Cordell has not fought anybody like Fondor, blah, blah, blah. The whole routine that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And, I said to Cordell, I said, you are in a great position.
Yeah, he is.
You are in a great position, and you go out and do your thing and do not let the moment overwhelm you.
That's the biggest thing, right? If he can, if Cordell Booker can do what he does the past couple, the past couple years, honestly, all these fights he's had, he showed up, he's done his job, especially the Greg Vendetti fight. That was a tough one, a good scrappy fight, man. Cordell can show up, fight his game, basically outbox this guy.
Listen, you got to get past the freakishness of Fondor because he's not, you know what I mean? Yeah, look, a fighter's a fighter, right? Like we were talking, he's 6'7", 6'8". He's a freak.
Yeah,
you got to get past that. Once you get past that, I think you're just take that out of the equation mentally.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this fight.
You and me both.
I really, and you know what? This is a big fight for the state of Connecticut.
It is.
For a lot of our fighters in this state to put them on the map. And you know what? It couldn't happen to a better person right now. He has worked hard to get a big fight.
Yeah.
And reinvent himself. And you know what? I can't wait for March 22nd because I honestly think Cordell Booker is going to beat Fondor.
Yeah, it gave me the chills, man. To have boxing with the world champ like Cordell Booker out of Connecticut, obviously, let's not think too far ahead, but, man, what a special thing that would be, right? And, especially over a guy like Sebastian Fondor, what a name that, to add to the resume. One thing I really like for Cordell about this fight, Dave, is it's not like he came off the couch, wasn't in camp. This guy was preparing for a main event at Mohegan Sun, had to cancel that fight. This guy, he took the fight on what you would consider somewhat short notice, but this guy, he was already preparing.
Yeah, but he was preparing to fight. All he had to do was redirect what he was doing, and he's in great shape.
Yeah.
I'm telling you firsthand what I saw.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into what they're working on or anything else. One thing I know is he's in great shape.
Yeah. And one thing that Paul said is like he's heard, obviously Paul's got a lot of friends in the boxing world, but he said even people that he doesn't even know, people see, this fight and a lot of people are saying that Cordell Booker can do this.
Well, Cordell Booker can, listen, if he can get past the first couple of rounds of Fondor being tall and adjusting to him and realizing, look, I can't be on the outside of those punches.
Right.
I can't be standing on the outside. I got to take a chance. I got to get inside. That would be my game plan. I don't know I know they have their own, what they're working on.
Yeah.
But, what we talked about is like, Lou, you cannot be at the end of his punches.
Yeah, that's it, man.
You can't be at the end of his punches because if you start at the end of his punches, you don't want to be there.
And I think that Cordell Booker is so fundamentally sound that he actually can outbox this guy, stay outside of those punches,
I think he can frustrate Fondor, Dylan. But the one thing that I think is the intangible, Cordell's got grit.
Yeah.
Fondor's not used to fighting guys. Okay, he fought Zoo, and Zoo got hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but Zeus still had a little grit. He was still coming.
Right.
He was still coming.
Yeah, he was
all right?
tough.
So I think guys that have grit, that are a little tough, and put pressure on Fondor and really take him out of his comfort level, I'm interested to see what happens here. And you know what? Cordell's got grit.
Yeah, he sure does. He sure does. And I wanted to kind of run something by you. Want to hear your thoughts on this. Dude, Fondor was preparing to fight Errol Spence. Now he's got a guy like Cordell Booker. Do you think that can kind of mess with the motivation? Now it's kind of underwhelming, if you will. He was expecting to fight Spence. Now nothing against Cordell Booker, but like you said, it's not a fight that Fondor may have been expecting. I don't know if that messes with his motivation at all. But
I don't know him or his team as well to
Right.
answer that, but one thing that kind of might play into his mind, look, you're getting to fight Earl Spence. That's a different dog.
Right. You know what I mean?
That's a different dog.
Yeah.
Right? With the preparation for Spence, if he takes that same preparation and doesn't think of Cordell any less of a fighter and doesn't step off the gas.
Right.
Yes.
Which most fighters are going to
But now
do
sometimes it's like the air coming out of the balloon, right?
Yeah.
You're fighting Earl Spence, and then they tell you, well, that fight's off. And you're going to fight this guy. It's like, shh. In his mind, maybe the Spence fight has more pressure for him.
Right.
Right? But now maybe he takes a step off the gas a little bit.
It's
I
tough.
don't know.
I mean, a lot. You'd want to say that every fighter is going to prepare the same way. You see it a lot where different matchups get made, and even some matchups like I know tomorrow night the UFC, there was an opponent. There was a 2-day notice fight that just came about. So of course we like to say that every fight, the fighters are going to prepare as hard as they can and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, man, you get Errol Spence, Cordell Booker is two different fights. You know what I mean?
And look, he doesn't. Seeing Spence, you know what you're getting with Spence. Okay. You know what he can do.
That's right.
All right. He doesn't know too much about Cordell, whatever tape he's seeing out there. And now what happens in that fight is you have pressure because in the boxing world, you're supposed to beat Cordell and you're supposed to beat him hands down.
You're supposed to knock
You're
him
supposed
out.
to give him a boxing lesson, right?
Yeah.
But as that fight gets tougher, now the pressure of you not getting him out of there and he's still there with you, now we're going to see what happens.
Starts eating you up, yeah.
And now you got to, when you start to press as a fighter, okay, you can make mistakes.
Yeah.
You can make mistakes, and that's where you get caught in fights like this. When you're pressing and your corner's telling you, well, he's still there. Why is he still there? We should have got rid of him. Why or you know what? Maybe your plan is not working.
Yeah, you start
right
to have
away.
All those
Now there's
thoughts.
a lot of things start changing in that fight. And I still think, nothing against Sebastian Fondor, I think he's questionable when it comes to people putting pressure on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to see if he can withstand some body shots.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is like those long arms, man, it takes a little longer to get them back. You're opened up a little bit longer than other people.
Listen, if Cordell can stay close, it's going to be a different fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you gotta overlook the height.
This is the best short notice title shot opportunity Cordell could have had.
This is what changes boxing. Fights like this, right? You're sitting home training for somebody else. The call comes in. Now you're fighting for 2 world titles.
Yeah.
2 belts.
Yeah, 2 of them. And
right?
I think they want to unify them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're fighting 2.
Yeah.
You know what? You get put in a friggin' shot here. The other caveat is here, right? For argument's sake, say Cordell loses the fight, but he fights a great fight.
Yeah.
He's back.
Yeah. He's going to have more opportunities.
He's going to have more opportunities because people will say, where the hell did he come from?
Yeah, exactly. So this is basically the best opportunity for him.
So, back to our Connecticut
Yeah.
aspect is there's a lot of good stuff happening in the state of Connecticut where on all levels of sports that you're going to see guys, on all levels of combat sports, boxing, UFC, bare knuckle, everything happening across the board that'll probably be keeping you busy
Yeah.
in the future.
If Cordell can pull this off, we will have a UFC world champion, a 2-time UFC world champion or 2-division champ, and then we're going to have a 2-time world champion boxer. How cool would that be? You know what I mean? We'd have Cordell and Alex Pereira both representing Connecticut on the biggest stage.
You know, and then, you know, you look at that, and there's a lot of good young talent coming up.
Oh, there's so many guys behind him. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of good talent that's happening. You know, we have the Feliz brothers, Ali Feliz fighting tomorrow night. You know, his brother Finelli Jr. We have Joseph Chisholm over in you know, Chip Brosnick. We got Lefty Marrero.
Chisholm's what, like 3-0 now? 4-0?
Yeah, I mean, he's 18 years old. I mean, this is, you know, we got Louis Rosa's guys, Felix Pereira.
Yep.
You know, we got Will Foster.
Yeah.
You know, Will was in the gym the other night sparring. I mean, the list goes. I don't want to miss anybody. But there's a lot of young talent out there that you really don't know what can happen here either way. You know, we got Alejandro Perlino. He's got an awesome record right now. And there's just so much going on. You know, on the UFC end, we got Nick Newell's guys. You know, Quentin Paisley. You know, Justin Sumter just signed to fight a big fight. And you know.
LFA.
Yeah.
He'll be on that March 22nd card at LFA.
Yeah.
Rumor has it that Quentin's going to be on the card too. I haven't heard any news about that or seen anything.
Yeah, I talked to Quentin. I know Justin's coming in tonight to train a little bit. I'll talk to him.
Very good.
When he's in the gym. You know, there was talk. Quentin was in 2 weeks ago that he was going to be on that card, but it seems, you know, and there's a kid, right? There's a kid that could fight both.
Yeah.
There's a kid that can box and be, you know, he's just, you know, 22-year-old, 23-year-old kid.
Athlete.
He's just got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And, you know, just having a tough time getting opponents, I think, for him right now with that.
The dude's only like 1-0, I think. And
he's 1-0. He's got one UFC fight. And you know what? He was supposed to fight on that LFA card, and his fight fell out at last minute, unfortunately. But let's flip back to the UFC for a minute. What do you see for Alex Pereira?
So Alex Pereira is about to fight Magomed Ankalaev. He's about to defend his title once again. If Alex Pereira gets through Ankalaev, I honestly think that's when you see the John Jones fight. I think that's when, you know, Alex Pereira fights John Jones. However, I think John's gonna fight in June at International Fight Week. I think it's like June 28th or 29th. So I know Alex, him and his coaches always say that he likes to stay active. He comes from a kickboxing, you know, background where the dude fought so often. So I don't expect Alex Pereira to wait until after this John Jones fight. I don't expect him to wait. You know, if he wins in March, or honestly, if he loses, he probably could still get the John Jones fight just because of his name, but he's going to want that fight coming off a win. I'm sure John Jones is going to want that fight, Alex Pereira coming off a win as well. You know, I think that there's going to be a period of time where Alex might have to take another fight just because of the scheduling, right? So if Alex fights in March, John Jones fights in June, you got a couple months there. Then John Jones wants to take some time off. That fight, Alex Pereira, John Jones, probably won't happen, if at all, until the end of the year. So I think that there's going to be, I don't know exactly what fight, but there's going to be another fight or two before, you know, after this Ankalaev fight for Alex Pereira, just because he likes to stay active. God willing that everything goes well, he's going to need to stay active and fight in between the John Jones fight. So, like I said, I think that John Jones fight will happen eventually. I don't think it's going to happen right now. I know Alex wants to make have the right training, the right preparation before he fights at heavyweight. That's something MMA fans can look forward to, where combat sports fans can look forward to. But like I said, I don't know what's going to happen for Pereira after the Ankalaev fight, just because of scheduling.
What do you think about him going up?
I love it. The one thing for me is John Jones took 3 years or so to go from a light heavyweight to a heavyweight. So, like I've always said, it would be kind of, I think for Alex's best interest, he doesn't do it in 8 months. You know, I know he's getting up there in age. He's, I think, 37 right now. And like I said, he likes to fight consistently. So I don't know how that would go. But, you know, John Jones had 3 years to put on the weight and finally build himself into a heavyweight. For me, you know, I don't exactly want to see Alex do it in such a short amount of time, but I know he can. He walks around 235, something like that. He can do it, but I just, you know, John Jones had 3 years. This guy's only going to have a couple months probably. So if you will, it's a little bit different of a...
Well, the adjustment is fighting at the weight to see how you can carry yourself through the rounds and, and make sure that your conditioning carries the weight.
Yeah, like Alex Pereira could literally just walk onto the scale and be a heavyweight. He doesn't have to
Right.
cut any weight. But I'm sure if you're gonna fight John Jones and fight at heavyweight, you're probably gonna want to put on a little bit more muscle and put on. If you can weigh in at 265, obviously he's not gonna do that. But maybe he may weigh in at 250. Because he walks
Yeah.
around 235, put on a little muscle. Be nice and filled up with water and stuff like that. Like, he's not gonna have a crazy weight cut at heavyweight, so it probably wouldn't hurt him to put on a little bit more mass. That's the one kind of deal where, like I said, John Jones, he took 3 years to build all that muscle. Now, I'm curious to see how it plays out for Alex Pereira putting, whatever muscle or mass he wants to put on before he takes the heavyweight. He's just going to have a much shorter time to do it,
Yeah. And then, let's see how it affects his, his mobility
Yeah.
and in the ring and
Yeah,
his
listen,
endurance.
you get through Ankalaev. There's maybe one more fight. I'd have to go through the rankings and see what's going on in the light heavyweight division in 5 months or 3 months. But you get through Magomed Ankalaev, it's almost safe to say that Alex Pereira has cleared out the light heavyweight division. So I don't blame him for wanting to move up to heavyweight. I just don't like how he's not going to have that period of time that maybe John Jones did.
Yeah, but those opportunities,
They don't.
after this, if he continues to win, what other opportunities?
That's right. That's what I mean.
At that point,
Take the risk. Go for a
is
3-time champ.
that's the big time fight.
Yeah.
That's the money fight.
Yeah.
That's the fight that everybody wants to see, right?
Yeah.
So, what
Could
do
be
you
a
do?
triple champ if he gets
What do you
through.
do? You sit and you wait? No, you don't.
You got
A guy like that is not going to sit and wait.
Exactly. You got to do it.
He's going to go out.
And like I said, he's 37 years old. It's not like he has, a ton of time left in the game. I mean, this dude probably could fight, for years, but I'm sure that, he's had a lot of fights, a lot of mileage on the body. He's nowhere near done. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. He's not the kind of fighter who's going to be waiting a year before he takes a fight,
Yeah. So what else? What are we going to see you covering in the future here?
My plan is, I've this past week I had to kind of cancel the Vegas trip. Like I said, stay consistent. I'm going to use the next couple weeks to I'm going to get this podcast rolling. That's been really fun. There's an I'm going to go crazy for the LFA card because I'm just so excited that LFA is coming to our home state here in Connecticut. I want to do my job as a journalist to make sure that I can provide some really good interviews and event coverage and promotion for this card, just because, as a fight fan that I am, I really do appreciate the fact that they're coming here. It means a lot to me just as the journalist because, dude, LFA has never been here before. LFA is one of the biggest and baddest, I like I said earlier, hate to say, regional in between promotions. They're killing it. So I'm so glad that they're coming here. I've got a lot of motivation to put in the work for their event. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be kind of what's on my mind for the next couple weeks. As soon as we get past that, I expect the UFC event down in New Jersey, probably in June. They seem to do it every year there. So that should be cool. Sometime in the summer. I think I'm speculating that they're going to be there. I can't guarantee it, but it's just kind of how they do things every year. It seems like they're in Newark. So I'm going to be there. It seems like every October they do one in Madison Square Garden. So later this year, I hope to be there too. But I'm going to pick something up soon. It would have been cool to be in Vegas this week doing my thing out there. Obviously, family stuff's a little more important for me. Took care of that. Now I got to see what comes up. I'm sure there's going to be a cool event for me to cover, a UFC event. I'm itching to get back in there. Nothing like a UFC event. You know how that is, being at the biggest shows. So I'm itching to get back in there. I just kind of have to wait till something, pops up for me. Of course, I'll be here in Connecticut covering all the regional stuff, taking care of all of our local fighters. I'm really trying to build on the videography type thing too. So I'm working on, camera setups and really learning videography, training footage for fighters. I'm going to be working a lot with Justin Sumter for this camp. I'm
Awesome.
sure. Yeah. So I'm just trying to grow and evolve and make sure that there's no stone left unturned because, Dave, in this kind of world, you got to really, I said it earlier, you got to be all in. I want to cover every little base. I want to be good with a camera so that I can provide, cool videos. I want to be good at podcasting so that I can, show my work in that realm. Just really making sure that I'm checking all the boxes to give myself the best opportunity to do what I want to do. That's it, man. So I just stay consistent, keep building on what I've got. The podcast is a new endeavor to hopefully grow my name, my brand even more. And I really, the next couple months, I'm going to be here in Connecticut as far as I know. At the moment, something could change. The PFL season's about to start up in April. I'm sure I'll go and cover a couple of their events. Staying consistent, making sure that the one thing is like the UFC events are probably the best for me just because they provide the most, the biggest names, the coolest, the fans love those interviews and stuff. So those interviews, those things get a lot of clicks, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'm really focused on my craft, the people around me here in Connecticut. So
what I look at too is everybody's got a story. Look, the big events are the big events. Right?
That's right.
That's the gravy, right? But you know what? A lot of the local fighters, they have a lot of stories to them, which makes for good, video and creativity. So, and being in the state, we want to give the guys, at least I do, I want to give our guys a lot of love. Coming and, working with these guys, seeing what they go through, trying to help promote the fighters, the promotional companies, obviously. It means a lot. And you know what? That's how we kind of build it. That's how you build your reputation, I think. Once you get, people see now, I've been blessed. I got a lot of people calling, hey, can we get, absolutely, man. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Now my thing is just trying to find enough time to do it.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Because I could probably, do 2-3 interviews a week if I had time, but I don't have the time to be in the studio 2 or 3 times a week, and these guys, I'm blessed because they give me studio time. But you know what? And sometimes I'll do back-to-back people because it's just, I got to squeeze it in and have stuff in. And, and if we have guys fighting, then that even just puts another damper in where I'm at. But
I love it. I find myself in the same situation between my job at Bass Pro and doing all this. But dude, I don't know why I can't get busy enough. I love it. I know how I know how you feel, but there's something that just keeps us going, and I would love one day, I've said it before, my full-time job, your full-time job, maybe one day, we could transition into doing podcasting, coaching full-time. I wouldn't mind that.
That's always been the goal. Yeah. If it happens, it happens. I've been blessed on where I am and, obviously working in Champs Boxing with AJ Galante. Great opportunity there. And, my hat's off to him because without that gym and without his vision, I don't know if I'm coaching like I am now because, he helps to put a great product out. We have a great reputation and, and going back to Cordell, it's like, look, we're one big family here in the state.
You got his back.
If we got to, dude, you're fighting. What do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need?
Yeah.
What can we do?
Yeah.
Whether it's, a sparring partner or a gym or a ring or whatever it is that we're here to, we want to see our brothers succeed here, man. We want to see them come back holding a goddamn belt.
That's right.
I mean, that's big for everybody.
Everybody.
So, I mean, I'm excited with that stuff. You going to divulge your first guest for the podcast, or you're going to rock the world with it?
I'm still working on it, Dave. You
got to make a splash.
That's it, man. So I've talked to a couple people. I've started thinking about it. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go yet. I still waiting on some answers and stuff. But that's the plan, bro. You got to make a big splash. So I'm hoping to get someone big on there for the first time. We'll see what happens. I know that I'm going to get Cordell Booker an interview before his fight because, like you said, we got to have each other's backs. I have his back for this fight. Yeah. I want to make sure that, being from the same state, he's given me time before. I want to make sure that I'm there for him and provide him a quality interview for all the fans and everybody watching him. So we're going to make that happen. And that's like I said, man, we all have each other's backs here in Connecticut. Spoke to Justin Sumter yesterday. I told him how excited I was for his fight. Told him that, listen, man, we'll get a great interview in, and we're also going to get some good training footage so that he can put it on his Instagram, his social platforms.
Come to Champs, and we'll be working with him usually on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And get some footage.
We'll do it at Champs. We'll do some down at Nick's gym too. Yeah, I told him, I said, man, this is such a good opportunity. I said, I'm so excited. I said, whatever I can do to help you. I told him, I said, I want to do an interview. I want to do training footage. I want to help this guy because
he's a good guy.
He's a good guy, and I think he's got it to get himself to the next level.
And just to speak about Justin, guy working a full-time job, family man, trains his ass off.
He's
a humble guy.
Yeah. So just to throw something at you, I was in Nick's gym when they were preparing for reality, when Mike Kimball was there, Justin Sumter was there, Quentin Paisley was there. Obviously Justin wasn't fighting, but one thing I realized, Dave, I'm in the gym, getting my camera set up ready and everything like that. I see Justin Sumter come in and work clothes. I'm like, wow, what's he up to? Obviously, he's not training, stuff like that. Goes into the bathroom, changes, puts on his workout gear, gets back on the mats. Who's he go train with? Quentin. Why? Because Quentin's a big dude. He needs a larger, training partner. Justin's a tall dude. He's a 85er, so he's got the build to play around in the gym with Quentin and help prepare him for this fight. I said, wow. This guy just got off his, 9 to 5, came straight to the gym. I think his wife and his daughter met him there. He went in, helped prepare his brother for the fight. But unfortunately, Quentin's fight ended up getting canceled. But that was,
that's what this game is about,
it.
man. You got to lift up the people around you in this game. And look, we're not at the 1%ers of the top level of the sport.
That's right.
Everybody's vying to get there.
Yeah.
Everybody's vying to carve out a little niche in whether you're an athlete, you're podcasting, you're a journalist. We're all looking to carve out a little niche, and to get to the upper level means you got to make yourself uncomfortable and do work, and look, training is not easy. And you know what? I respect that because, with Justin's like, like Justin, I'm in the gym. Come on, let's go. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Same with any of Nick's guys. I mean,
Yeah, you've had in champs. What I realize is you guys have so much crossover going on in it. I really like how you guys have built this bridge with all these other gyms. You're in great relationship with so many gyms, whether it be Revolution down in Stanford. You got Nick's gym over there. You guys have a great connection with Glover's gym too. Everybody works together. That's one of the things that I really like. Connecticut's a small state, man. And this whole state, it's like a union, combat sports union. Everybody works together. We got each other's backs, and that's one of the blessings. Being from a small state where everybody knows each other pretty much. If you're in the game, the other people.
Yeah, you do, and we have 2 great casinos. Look, you got Mohegan Sun, one of the biggest casinos in the world.
We're blessed,
right? We're blessed.
Yeah.
We need to get back to the days prior to COVID that combat sports were putting asses in the seat there, whether it's UFC, MMA, Legacy, CES, boxing, whatever it is up there. We need to have people coming in there because it's just going to cross over to everybody else.
That's right.
You know what? There's so many fans here.
It's insane.
So many people that are fans of combat sports, and I see it more and more, the diversification of people coming in to train that just want to train.
Yeah.
I got more women coming in asking to train than ever.
That's great.
And there is talent, right?
I love to hear
Not
that.
everybody's going to be a fighter, right? And we have a lot of young kids starting to come in, and the mid-level amateurs starting to come in. And look, what's even happening now is people are coming from out of state to come to Connecticut to train.
Yeah, and I
get calls from people like, "Oh, anytime, man. You want to come out here anytime."
Yeah, I love that, man. And it's a beautiful thing to be from this state. So I feel like, there's always been a good combat sports kind of community here. But I feel like it's growing right now more than it ever has. And it's a blessing because you always think of big cities. You got your Miamis, you got your Las Vegases, you got your, all over California, big gyms, stuff like that. Connecticut may not have those 20,000 square foot gyms, but we got the talent here. We got the heart, and it's kind of cool to see the fighters that we're producing. And you don't need those, I love the big gyms, the gyms with, 3 different rooms in them. But I'm not going to lie, man, it's pretty damn cool to see a guy like Cordell Booker. You had Giuseppe Cusimano training over there at Champs, preparing for some, his Adam fight. These aren't the biggest gyms, these are hometown gyms.
But you know what? The thing is, too, people think Connecticut, it's just, we got a lot of grit in the state.
Yeah.
Got a lot of grit.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
That's what makes fighters. Well, Dylan, I really appreciate you coming down.
Pleasure.
I want to ask you one thing here.
Mm-hmm.
As you're really starting to grow in this, if you had to give somebody advice,
Mm-hmm.
what would that advice be?
Advice, and I really appreciate you asking, because at this point I feel like, a lot of times when people ask for advice, sometimes I'm not exactly the guy that you need the advice from, but now I'm starting to
Well,
find my way.
you have an experience
Yeah.
that you started from X, sort of like me.
Yeah.
This is not in my realm.
Right.
This is your generation. Right? You guys are younger than me, right? It's your generation. But you experienced it. You experienced it from the beginning, and sort of like myself, we can look back and say, wow,
Yeah.
that video sucked.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do it all the time.
And, hard critique on us
Yeah.
because, most people don't. But you look at where you started from.
Sure do.
Right? And then you look at the evolution, right?
Sure do.
You look at the evolution, right? So, as a young man, if somebody came up to you and said, hey, Dylan, I want to blog. I want to do a podcast. I want to
interview.
I want to cover sport, combat sports. What would the advice be?
So I would tell them, man, you got to be consistent. You can't give up. And someone asked me this the other day. I said basically the same thing. You can't give up, right? I've seen so many people in this. There's a post last night. I'm not going to name names, but there's someone on Instagram saying how they've been doing this forever and they're not making any money out of it and blah, 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 and this and that. They can't afford to keep giving time to this and stuff like that. Well, listen, hate to tell you, but if that's your attitude, this ain't the right space for you. I've been doing this for 2 years. Almost every single thing that I've done has come out of my own pocket.
Yep.
And I know you can relate, as a coach, you end up paying for so much stuff on
your
own.
Even on, listen, at this level, I think if, like you said, consistency will lead to the other world.
Yeah, that's right. And right now, you got to have a mindset where, and you don't want to live in a fantasy. I know this is a realistic mindset that right now I'm investing in myself. There's nothing better than that. And it feels so good. If you invest in yourself, if you take $100 and spend it on, some equipment to do a podcast with, and you take that $100 and do that rather than going to the bar and spending it on drinks, it feels good. I'm not going to lie. I've got some cool equipment at my house. I look at it, I'm like, wow, I invested a bunch of money into myself. And it's all because I believe that it's going to pay off. And, I've done a lot of endeavors in my life. When I was in high school, I was really trying to make a name for myself in the fishing world, realized that it wasn't going to work out. Like, I've had a lot of cool little endeavors, but I came to a realization that, hey, listen, man, you're getting, now I'm, getting a little older. This is little, not going to pay off for me in the long run. And I've realized that. Tell you what, with this MMA stuff, I'm just staying consistent, networking, meeting the right people, taking advantage of opportunities. You can't say no to stuff in this world. A fighter gets a fight, you take the fight. As a journalist, you get an interview, you do an interview. You know what I mean? So staying consistent, make sure you make the most of any opportunities you get. And stick in the course, man. Invest in yourself, fly to an event, go out to an event, interview fighters. That's all I can say, man. You can't give up on yourself. The person last night, it's clear as day, they've gave up on themselves. That's just not what you do. If you can stick the course, not give up on yourself, trust in yourself, you'll be all right. I promise you that. And
we grind.
That's
we grind, man.
Hard work beats everything. I've told people all the time. My father's, he has some college, but he's a police officer. He works hard, he makes a living, and he does, well for himself. He doesn't have all that college stuff. One thing I can say is, at this day and age, if you have hard work, you don't need that piece of paper. And I've realized that for myself too. I'm in the middle of taking classes, but at the end of the day, I'm not really in a rush because I've got this hard work ethic, whether it be the Bass Pro stuff. I've worked my way up from a part-time employee to now a supervisor in the building. I've got that work ethic to grow. And, I haven't needed any much schooling, like, Bass Pro. If I wanted to stick the course, which quite honestly, I don't, I want to, do this full time. But if I wanted to stick the course, I can be a manager.
You need a step. Yeah. And you know what the whole thing is? It goes back to on the job training too.
That's it.
Life training is something like, look, I did have schooling. I'm not doing what my degree is for. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. But you know what? Most of my knowledge came on job training. Nothing, life training.
Nothing will ever be on the job experience. No. I think that on the job experience is way more beneficial than any schooling. And quite honestly, I've accomplished more without going to school than I have with going to school. When I was in school last semester going to school, one of my professors asked me, Dylan, why are you here? If you're going to cover UFC events, if you're going to, travel, you're already a journalist, you're doing this on the world's biggest stage of MMA. Like why are you here? And coming from a professor, I thought about that for a minute. I said, listen, you're kind of right? Because I'm going to an event every month. I'm getting the job experience. Nothing beats the job experience. I'll tell you right now. You go out to college, even in the Bass Pro world. I'm going to give another example. You go to become a retail manager or whatever you want to say. You go to be like a business management, right? You would think that it's going to help you become a leader in a store, right? Nah, you start off part-time, you learn the ropes, you work your way up, check off all the boxes, climb the mountain one step at a time, position to position. You don't need the schooling, bro. You know what I mean?
Leaders are leaders.
That's it.
Leaders are definitely leaders. So, look, we look forward to talking to tape.
Yes, sir. Me too.
We want to hear when you drop it. Definitely want to collaborate with you and kind of tell everybody where we can find you now. Till then,
yes, sir.
To see where your next move is going to be.
So one thing I'll say first is we're going to turn the tables eventually. We're going to have you on the Talk of the Tape podcast. I'm going to interview you.
That.
Yes, sir. That's something to look forward to, everybody. We're going to turn the table on Dave a little bit. We'll have him on the podcast. But for what you can expect from me is just to keep pumping out quality content. I'm going to be really dialed in on this podcast. In the next couple months, you can expect to see me taking care of the fighters that are local to me, like Justin Sumter, whoever else ends up on this LFA card. My attention is on that card for the moment. UFC is going to pop up at some point. PFL is going to pop out at some point. I'll make sure everybody's informed. But for the very moment, I just want everybody to know that I'm focused on my own craft and the people that are immediately around me here in Connecticut. We're going to have some cool stuff going on. Justin Sumter is going to have some really cool social media stuff going on for this fight. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to really push for him because, this is his shot. He gets a big win at LFA. A UFC fight can come next for sure. So I want to take care of myself, and being the fact that I live here in Connecticut, there's no better opportunity than to take care of the people around me. So probably 2-3 months, I'll be at another UFC event. But until then, you find me on Instagram, Dylan Napoleon MMA. I'm going to be releasing all the social media information for the Talk of the Tape, so just stay tuned for that. I don't have it all right now, but you look at me on Instagram, Dylan Napoleon MMA, and then everything else is on there. You follow through different links. All my stuff is connected, so check that out. And of course, more to come for Talk of the Tape. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Appreciate you. We want to kind of wrap it up. I want to say thanks to my sponsor, Farmer Strength.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Gary.
My guy Gareth is killing it. So you can find Coach's Corner's podcast apparel on www. Farmer Strength Apparel. Also, our Champs apparel out there. We got meals coming out soon for fighters, athletes, food prep coming out next week. Look for the drop. And we got some really good stuff. I don't want to divulge it right now for the future, but we got some great guests coming up. And we appreciate all the support, all the subscribers, all the comments. And till the next Coach's Corner, we'll see you. Train hard, train smart, and we'll see you in the next round.